Hello and welcome back to a special episode of Spread Some Magic 1928. Today we are going to be making gingerbread cookies. I'm so excited. So, gingerbread and this dress is typically thought of as a Christmas treat. Guess what? You can make gingerbread anytime you want. There is a recipe in this cookbook. However, this is not the one we're going to use. We're going to use the one found on the Palate website because that's the one I've been using, and when we did a side-by-side taste test to the Disney ones, it's pretty darn close. I think I just have to roll them a bit thicker and then it's going to be pretty spot on. But there is a picture in here and they are just the cutest. Who doesn't want gingerbread year-round? So for today, I actually am doing this for a friend's birthday. So we have these are new to the site, the Parks cookie cutters. So there's a castle, there's a bow, there's a glove, there's Mickey and a Dole Whip and an ice cream bar. And then this is also the Mickey shaped gingerbread man that I got off Etsy a while back. But you could do whatever. You just want to make them into squares, it doesn't matter. You may remember these from my beignet video, and they made super cute beignets. So we are going to get started here. You are gonna need a plethora of ingredients though. You need flour, dark brown sugar, canola oil, cinnamon and ginger, of course, an egg, dark molasses, which sometimes I get this, I can't find it in the store, so I do get it off Amazon, vanilla extract, salt and baking soda, and butter. And the first thing we have to do is we have to brown our butter and then let it cool for 15 minutes minimum before we can actually get started making these cookies. So let's pop the butter on the stove, get that going, and then I'll see you back here. To brown your butter, place 1.5 sticks of salted butter to a small saucepan over medium to low heat. Swirl and melt. The butter will boil and grow, but continue to swirl it. The butter will turn golden brown and brown bits will develop on the bottom of the pan. Once done cooking, strain into a heat-proof bowl and remove all the brown bits. Let cool at least 15 minutes. Okay, to the bowl of a stand mixer if you have one, you want to put in that brown butter, and you can see ours is pretty golden brown. Getting all that goodness in there, just to get it all in. And to that, we are going to add 1/2 cup of dark brown sugar. That's been packed down. And then we're going to beat. The thing about the Pampered Chef mixer, when I needed a new one and why I got this one, is that it has presets. So you can turn it on beat. It tells you what to use, which attachment. So if you're new to baking, this can be a huge help. After that's beat, we want to scrape down the sides and scrape up the bottom. Make sure everything is combined. And then we're gonna add 1/2 cup of molasses, and then we're adding the egg and 2 tablespoons canola oil and mixing well once again. If you don't want to use canola oil, you don't have to. You can use whatever neutral cooking oil you like to bake with. I've pretty much replaced canola oil in most of the things I make, but in baking, I still go to it. So if you've got a better alternative, just let me know. Thanks so much. So now we're gonna mix this really well and then start adding our dry ingredients. Let me see if we add the vanilla right now. Be right back. We do indeed add our vanilla right now, so all the liquid ingredients get mixed. And there we go. Now we can get mixing. All right, this round's done beating. So now it's time to add our dry ingredients, and it says to add them slowly, but what I like to do, get that all taken care of. What I like to do is mix all my dry ingredients together. That way you're not gonna have any clumps of these spices in like one cookie. And then that also ensures that the baking soda, which is needed it's like a leavening agent and it helps cookies rise. These don't rise that much because they are gingerbread, but it just makes sure it's evenly distributed throughout. So we're gonna have 3 cups of flour. And then, so to the bowl of 3 cups of flour, you're gonna add 1 tablespoon cinnamon. And you can be precise. baking is precise, but when it comes to the cinnamon and ginger, if a little extra spills in, I don't mind. Oops, take that off. And then we're gonna add a tablespoon of ginger as well. Oop, oven's ready. And then we add a ½ teaspoon each of the baking soda and the salt. This recipe calls for kosher salt, which if you were to use kosher salt, it needs to be Diamond Crystal kosher salt. If it is Morton's kosher salt, then you're gonna substitute regular table salt. Oops, that's too much, so there we go. The Morton's kosher salt, which is what I cook with, does not dissolve as well in baking goods, baked goods. And so last thing you want when you're biting into a very soft and delicious gingerbread cookie is a bite of salt. And don't get me wrong, I love salted caramel, I love salted chocolate, but you just don't want it where you don't expect it. So this is now pretty mixed up. You can use a whisk if you want. Oh, there's a clump of cinnamon, but it is a light brown flour now. Most mixers, if you are using a stand mixer, come with a guard. And this is how you feed the flour in slowly. You want it mixing slow and putting it in slowly. You don't want to overmix. If you overwork flour in baked goods, your goods will come out tough. That includes bread. So if you're having a problem with your breads being tough, you're overmixing the flour. It's highly important in like chocolate chip cookies too. This one, not quite so much, but we still want to go slow. So let's add this in. All right, our dough is ready. I have cut a piece of parchment that fits my cookie sheet exact, and we put half the dough on here. I have got my 1/4 inch guide on my roller, and now before I roll, so we don't stick here, what we want to do is put another piece of parchment over the top. It makes it so much easier. And then we're gonna roll it out to a 1/4 inch thick. I just push it down to get it started. And we'll be back to cut. All right, and voila. The reason you want to make this piece of parchment the size of your cookie sheet so you don't roll too much extra, because if you roll off the page, well, it's not gonna fit. The directions show that you make your cuts and then you freeze them and then remove the extra dough. Well, that might be easier. I like to roll the extra dough so I can have more cookies. So I'm gonna do one of each and then take out the extra dough. And then the next batch, I have to make sure I wanna write happy birthday. So I try to fit them in and use as much dough as possible. Oh, also, sometimes, especially when working with letters, this is easy to like hold down the dough or to poke the edges out, like the edge of that glove, so it can come out. And then I just toss it in the pot with the rest of the dough. All right, let me get this cut up and then we'll pop it in the oven, or actually we don't pop it in the oven first. We pop it in the freezer and then the oven. More on that in a minute. All right, we have got these ready. We're gonna pop them in the freezer for 10 minutes. And what that does is it just allows the dough to be ready, honestly. Anytime I make cookies, I refrigerate them at least 2 hours. These ones, 10 minutes in the freezer, you're good to go. It just helps them in the oven better. When I make scones, I even freeze my scone. Like I roll them, cut them, pop them in the freezer for like 20 minutes. It just chemically does something I don't understand, and it doesn't matter, it works. So obviously our oven was ready. You heard it ding earlier, but if you wanted to, this is actually when you could start your oven while these chill out, and then we'll pop them in. I'll see you when they're done. They're still kind of hot, but we're gonna try one. I smushed the castle. So you do need to, you can see they're on the rack there. They need to cool completely before you decorate, and preferably before you move them. But let's try them. Gingerbread cookies year round should be a thing. They don't have to be just for Christmas. It is quite hot still though. Anyhow, thanks for stopping by. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. and spread some magic wherever you are. Until next time.